Hello, I hope this message finds you well. The purpose of this video is essentially to address the question, in the remote learning environment, what is Calculus 2 at Coastal going to look like moving forward? So with us starting up the remote learning environment next week, a necessary step is going to be to get your hands on an internet-ready device. That's going to be a device with a speaker and a display. We're talking here like a smartphone or a tablet or a laptop or a desktop. Ideally, the device would also have a microphone as well, whereas the speaker is going to allow you to hear what's being said in any video that might be assigned to you, or hear what's being said by your professor directly in class or office hours. The microphone is going to allow you to interact with your professor during class and office hours, allow you to get your questions answered. So while an internet-ready device is a necessary step, perhaps the best step is going to be to get yourself back in the Calc 2 groove of mind. And frankly, one of the better ways to do that may be to review your notes. I mean, after all, this is your transcribed copy of the conversations that you've had with your instructor in class. Another great way to get yourself back in the Calc 2 groove is to work some exercises on WebAssign. If there's problems you haven't worked on WebAssign yet, why not work them to scoop up the points? And for the even problems that you have worked, say since the last test, it might have been weeks since you've worked problems related to particular topics, and kicking off the rust there is probably going to be to your benefit. In the act of kicking off the rust associated with some of the topics which you may not have seen for a couple weeks, I recommend our course website. It should be linked to in your course Moodle page. The course website has a bunch of great resources to help you sort of get back in that Calc 2 groove of mind. So when we get into the remote learning next week, what is remote learning ultimately going to look like? Well, in particular, the most important document you are going to receive on a weekly basis is an agenda. And this agenda is going to be posted into Moodle. This agenda is going to have contained within it, for every day that we would have regular class meetings, essentially a list of tasks to accomplish to make sure that you're staying current with the course material. The tasks for any particular day may include watching content videos online. It may include watching some videos related to some worked examples. It may even include some examples for you to work. But ultimately, the agenda is going to set up a path of study that's going to, by you working through these tasks, set you up in a position to stay current with the topics that we'll be covering in our course. Now, in addition to the weekly agenda, we will also be having class meetings, office hours, and outreach. Class meetings and office hours, you will be hearing from your instructor with respect to when those things will be occurring. Outreach hours, as far as I have heard, will be occurring at their regular time based on what the department has been doing throughout the course of this semester. Now, while we are in the remote learning environment, class meeting, office hours, and outreach hours will have to be occurring through Skype or Zoom or some other online internet service. Now, if you have Skype or Zoom already downloaded on your internet-ready device, great. If not, you still should be okay. You still should be able to access these things through a web browser. Now, what about when it comes to graded work and assignments? How is that going to proceed? Well, WebAssign is essentially going to be business as usual. Frankly, WebAssign works great in the remote learning environment. And when we work through a particular topic, you'll have WebAssign problems to work associated with it. Written homework may be a little bit more tricky in light of the fact that we won't be able to exchange papers in person. And so that will be up to the discretion of your instructor as to how that will be proceeding. You'll hear from them. Now, when it comes to quizzes and tests are going to be run a little bit differently. And in particular, they're going to be run through the WebAssign system as well. Now, I want to make a differentiation here between the WebAssign homework and what will be WebAssign quizzes and tests. The WebAssign homework, as you know, you can open and reopen for days as you're working through the problems all the way up until the deadline that they're due. The quizzes and tests are going to be a little bit more of a controlled environment where you're going to have a particular amount of time that you're going to be allowed to have a window open. And once you close it, that'll be it. You'll have the time that the window is open to work through the quiz or the test and to earn your points for the particular problems. Now, to go into a little bit more detail on the WebAssign-based quizzes and tests, some of the problems will be graded like your homework on a simple green check or red X sort of scale. Some of the problems will also have partial credit. Now, some of the partial credit will be associated with problems that have multiple attempts. For each attempt that you try, you will not be able to earn as many points as you would have if you had correctly answered the problem on a previous attempt, but you'll still have multiple attempts to be able to earn yourself some partial credit for some problems. Another way that we can assess partial credit is through taking a photo of your work. WebAssign actually has a tool that allows you to upload a picture and associate it to your working of a particular problem as you're going through a quiz or a test. So that'll be a really helpful way for the work associated with any particular problem to be conveyed to your instructor for an opportunity to get some partial credit. Now, when it comes to quizzes and tests that will be upcoming, we are going to have a quiz on Wednesday the 25th. So as I'm recording this video, that's next Wednesday. This quiz will definitely cover material that's been covered recently in class, but sort of underlying it all, maybe the main purpose of the quiz is to familiarize ourselves with the WebAssign system for quizzes and tests. So in particular, with this partial credit system, with multiple attempts, or with uploading photos, we'll be able to familiarize ourselves with that through that quiz that we take on Wednesday the 25th. And ultimately, this is going to help prepare us for the test, and our next test is going to be coming up on Monday the 30th. So the test on Monday the 30th is going to cover all of the topics that are listed in the syllabus to be covered in the next test. So from trig sub to partial fractions, all the way to sequences. Again, that test will be on Monday the 30th. There will be a quiz the Wednesday prior to familiarize ourselves with the WebAssign system and certainly to experience some of the content that we've seen related to the course as well. So to summarize everything that we've talked about, necessary step before next week, get your hands on a reliable internet-ready device. The best thing that you can do between now and next week is to get yourself back in the Calc 2 groove. Go back through your notes, work some WebAssign problems, use the course website that you have available to you to help you in that effort to get your mind back in the groove. When next week rolls around, we will get a weekly agenda, and in fact, for all subsequent weeks, where we are in the remote learning environment, we will get a weekly agenda. In addition to the weekly agenda, which is essentially the list of tasks to accomplish during the course of a week, we will also have class, office hours, and outreach hours through Skype or Zoom. Quizzes and tests henceforth, or at least henceforth while we are in the remote learning environment, will be occurring through WebAssign. Our first quiz will be Wednesday the 25th, and our first test will be Monday the 30th.